Also, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this iteration of the Cemetery Board meeting. I'm Dan Shapiro. I'm Secretary of State, Cesar Paralysis designee as chair.
Bob Welch, representing Dr. Howard Zucker from the Department of Health.
And Christopher Wiles from the Attorney General's office, Eric Schneiderman.
Lou.
Louis Polishuk, Director.
Chester Buckowitz, Assistant Director, Division of Cemeteries.
Mike Seelman, Senior Investigator, Division of Cemeteries. John Drain, Investigator, Division of Cemeteries.
Russell Clark, Division of Cemeteries.
Joe Ambrose, Associate Accountant, Division of Cemeteries.
Tony Malillo, Counsel to the Board.
Great. Okay. Have folks had an opportunity to take a look at the minutes?
Yes.
Any changes, suggestions?
I did not have any.
I had just one really small one, but boy, did I not bring it with me? I did. Okay. And it was under Palisades Cemetery, and it's a very minor thing. The board discussed obtaining, it says, the official endorsement of the municipality. And we had discussion about, well, it could be somebody from the municipality. I mean, official, I don't know what official means, so I would strike that word. And that was...
I wouldn't even use, I think I wrote this part of it.
Okay.
I wouldn't even use the word endorsement. My recollection is what you guys said, is that you wanted
a letter,
written evidence of support or no objection.
Obtaining...
Endorsement sounds a little more
than
that's right. Asking for.
So obtaining proof of support? Proof of acceptance?
I don't think... It's not even really support. We just wanted to make sure they weren't... You just wanted to make sure that they weren't against it, was my recollection.
Proof of... Let me see. The board discussed obtaining...
Proof of no objection? That too lawyerly double negative?
No, that's all right. I think proof of no objection by the municipality as well as the Division of Corporations. Does that fly with everybody?
Lawyered or the double negative?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the consent of the Division of Corporations, there was Division of Corporations.
Yeah, that's right. I think it
consent,
covers. I mean, we know that. They have to have the consent.
I mean,
No.
Tony was the one who formulated this, so maybe we should...
Oh, well, that lawyer...
Oh, sure.
No, I wrote it wrong, but what I'm trying to recall is exactly what you said. So maybe we should just ask you.
I think what you've done is fine.
Okay, good. Good?
I have more, though.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
Under Rules and Regs, my report, the second paragraph, Mr. Malillo reported that he and the division continue to work on their revised proposed changes.
Aha.
And then I think we have to clean up the report on the vandalisms, the Spring Forest Cemetery.
I'm glad you're reading that closely. I didn't.
Let's see. The third line goes to Forest Lawn Cemetery, conditioned upon. I think it should read, let's figure out my own notes here.
It's Forest Hill, right?
Forest Lawn Cemetery.
Spring Forest.
Well,
It's
actually
labeled
it says
Spring
Forest
Forest
Lawn
here.
within the
Forest
text.
Lawn is... Mike, what's the old one was called Forest Hill, right?
Floral Park.
Floral Park.
And Spring Forest.
Yeah, it should not say Forest Lawn.
So it should say Spring Forest in there?
No, it should say Floral Park.
Floral Park. All right, I didn't even catch that. All right, so it should say grant totaling $177,500 for the maintenance of an abandoned cemetery, Floral Park Cemetery. And then I think delete the rest. It should say with a payment schedule to be agreed upon by the division and by the cemetery. And then the next sentence.
Okay, yeah.
That was agreed upon?
With a payment schedule to be agreed upon by the division and the cemetery. And I think the next sentence should read, also the board waived its previous restriction prohibiting additional.
Okay.
I would change giving the division discretion to subject to the division's discretion. Because you guys acknowledged, and we are taking the position that until they demonstrate the use of that previous grant,
Subject
they're
to.
not getting that last 10 grand.
Subject to, it seems fine to me.
Okay.
I'll just ask that we provide the actual text. Thank you.
Yep, Tony's going to do that.
Okay, that should do it.
Is that all right with everybody? All right. Any further comments, discussion, motion?
So moved for the approval of the minutes.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great.
I think that may be the longest agenda item for today.
Yeah, by the way, we get any more lawyers in the room, we're gonna be doing the minutes, so it's gonna take us a lot longer, I'm telling you. Okay, legislation and regulation.
Nothing to report. Legislation's out of session. I don't believe either of the bills that passed both houses has either been signed or vetoed. I think they're still sitting
Yep.
on the governor's desk.
Okay.
So nothing to report there.
And which ones were they? Were there more than one?
Yeah, there was the one that allowed cemeteries in Nassau County to acquire
yes.
additional land.
Right.
And then there was the one allowing cemeteries to take principal from the PM fund.
Right.
Right.
I'm gonna bug everybody. What's happening with the
Regulation.
reporting rules? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, in fact, we're meeting today after this meeting to work on the schedules to the annual report. That's the last step before we can get it out to everybody.
Okay. And
We've redrafted.
are they there? Are they there now?
Pardon?
They're there?
Almost. That's why we're meeting today.
Okay. All right.
The
We're almost
substance of it we did, I mean, the substance of it is largely done, and the annual report form, the guts of it, Joe, you're redrafting that? Chat, you're redrafting.
Well, that was collaborative
One of us
effort,
will-
collaborative effort, but we've kind of like combined all the changes into one draft now. So which is, as Tom was saying, we'll look at.
Okay, so pretty short order, we'll be sharing it with our
Interested
friends
parties
and interested parties, and we'll get together again and hopefully have something that we can put in notice or propose.
Yep.
Okay, good. Mr. Polishuk.
Okay, I have a few things actually. I guess we just talked about the annual report revision, which is that it's in progress. But I mean, to clarify for the video, we have been working for a while on changing our financial reporting reg, and in the process of that, we realized that the annual report that we require of cemeteries needs updating, and both to conform to the changes and also just to be more informative and more accurate. So we're working on that simultaneously, including some schedules, which are still subject of revision. The Revitalization Act, the Attorney General's program bill, is now in effect. And so naturally, having written this nice little memo about this, I realized that I didn't do half of what I should have done, because we are getting calls from cemeteries saying, hey, we're 3 volunteers with $5,000 in the bank. How are we supposed to come up with a conflict of interest policy? So apparently the Charities Bureau is working on some samples already.
That would be wonderful.
I don't
Yeah.
want to duplicate their efforts,
Right.
but I've sort of done a little bit of research and poking around. For now, the Lawyers Alliance, which is an organization in New York City that works with not-for-profits, and it seems to be populated largely by alumni of the Charities Bureau, has a sample conflict of interest policy. It's still, I think Alicia has provided that to one cemetery already.
Mm-hmm.
It's still kind of too much for a very small organization, but we're working with them to see what kind of models they have to help people with changes. Once we have a degree of comfort with that, I'm thinking we should put our own models out there right on the website.
Yeah, or we can link, if
coordination
the
with
agent's
charities.
models are great, we link to those.
If they're
you
done,
know.
I have a feeling we could be done with them before they will.
Well, let's pursue that. That's
Because-
very good. You're absolutely right.
But we need to
Not just
give-
right, you're reporting reality, and I would have anticipated that if you're going to get, that's going to keep coming.
Ironically, the last rulemaking I did at the Attorney General's office, I made the same mistake, making changes to how people are supposed to do things without giving them samples of what they're supposed to do, since they expected us to spoon feed everything to them. Let's see. Next, we have, okay, that's just management stuff. You don't need to know about this. I guess I could tell you about complaint tracking. We are now in beta in keeping track of complaints using Microsoft Access, as opposed to just sticking them in a book and on an Excel
Excellent.
spreadsheet, so that we will be in a position to do reports on complaints.
Good.
And better track them. The last issue, which has come, two more things. One is, I'm just going to report on a meeting we had with Green River Cemetery. It's in Springs, New York. It started out as a cemetery for the Village of Springs, which was sort of old-time East Enders, fishing folks and harbor masters and things like that. But it's become a bit of a destination for prominent people. Jackson Pollock is buried there. A bunch of other artists and directors and other artistic folk are there. They're running low on cash, and they're all but out of space. We had a meeting with the board and the town of East Hampton to try to figure out whether they were just done or whether they could be reorganized. We are now aiming for the completion of an audit and a lot owners meeting to see whether, in fact, there is a possibility for this place to keep going under new leadership with exploring new sources of funding, or whether it's going to go to the town. But it's generating, there are a few complainants about conditions there. Over the years, we've gotten a steady stream of they're not cutting the grass frequently enough, or you're neglecting this really wonderful thing. So it is possible that this meeting will
Produce interest.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, the town does seem, not like they have a choice, but the town does seem prepared to take on the responsibility. But I think that's going in a good direction.
Oh, good.
But because it's been getting a little bit, it has in the past gotten press, and it does get some degree of attention from locals. I thought it was worth reporting to the board. The last thing is disinterment. I seem to be getting calls about, lots of calls about disinterment lately. One particular issue concerns a situation where there is no surviving parent, child, or spouse. The statute requires that the consent of lot owners and the surviving parent, child, or spouse. And if you can't get the consent of these people, you need a court order. You also need the consent of the cemetery, and if the cemetery doesn't consent, you need a court order. The question has arisen, if there are no surviving parents, spouse, or children, does that second clause mean you have to go to court? As a matter of division practice, I'm not going to give a legal opinion, but as a matter of division practice, it doesn't seem, especially if what you're talking about is disinterring and reinterring within the cemetery, that there's any reason to force these people to go to court. If you are going to be taking someone and moving them somewhere else, then it might make more sense for the cemetery to say.
So if there are no close family members, who's seeking the disinterment?
A lot.
Well, in this case, in the particular case that came up, it's one of the people who can no longer sign because she's dead, who is effectively seeking the disinterment. It's a double grave where there are the cremains of a son. They have to move the cremains to put the mother's casket, and then they'll pop the cremains back in. So they're just disinterring and reinterring in the same spot.
But it's lot holders.
But the lot holders are cousins, whatever.
Right. See, it seems to me the question's not a matter of
But
policy.
the lot holders aren't really seeking it here. It's really the cemetery that needs to do it to be able to accommodate the wishes of the family.
But the family are the lot holders, and so because to me it's not a matter of public policy. I mean, whatever went into the statute to make it what it is. But now it's pure statutory interpretation. So it says the consent of the lot holders and the survivor, whoever it is, and the question is is what is not said is if any at the end, because if it said
Right.
the holders, if any, then clearly it would be, well, then all you need is the consent of the lot holders, all right? The alternative interpretation is that if you don't have that consent, if nobody is alive anymore to give it, then even though you have the lot holders, it's got to go to court. I think I would read that, but this isn't I think, because we need some more research on it, but I think I read that to mean if there ain't no more surviving folks listed there, then it goes to the lot holders. I don't think it has to go to court, but that's...
I know as a matter of policy, we really do not encourage cemeteries to require a court order unless there's some reason to think there might be trouble down the line, because it's a burden on the family.
My knowledge of the history of the division is the opposite, that we always encourage them, if there's any doubt, to go to
To
court.
protect,
If there's an
to
issue,
protect the
sure.
cemetery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you never know if someone's going to object who has been hiding or hasn't gotten notice.
I guess we're saying the same
It's
thing
always
differently.
safer to go to court. And most cemeteries take that position themselves without our encouragement.
But where you have everyone consenting, let's take a simpler
You
case.
think you have.
Let's take a simpler case where you have a parents, kids,
Lewis didn't
and
think he'd get
spouse.
this. I could-
Let's take a simpler case: parents, kids, spouse, and they all consent. They all are alive,
Yeah,
and they
right.
all consent.
Sure.
There are some cemeteries that still want you to go to court. From my perspective, that's just an unfair expense on the family. Everything else you're spending money on, you have to hire a lawyer and go to court to get an order where there's no real objection. I agree with you that if there's reason to think there might be trouble, and I also don't think there's almost never going to be reason if in a situation like this where you have to temporarily disinter and you're just going right back to the same spot, there's really no reason to think anyone was going to object to that. So in this particular case, I thought it was kind of an easy case. But I just wanted to report that we're getting calls about this. And one thing that I'm going to try to do, I'll obviously run this by you before we do anything with it, is try to make the process easier for people, create sample orders of disinterment and sample affidavits of disinterment for people to use. So if they do have to go to court, it would reduce their expenses somewhat. Other states, Ohio, for example, has a sample order of disinterment right on the website. I think it would make life easier for people because the last thing you need to do is spend more money going to court on something like this. And if your lawyer can just pull models off and conform them to the facts, that'll make their life simpler.
Sounds like a good thing.
That's
Okay.
pretty much what I've got. Unless Chet, is there anything? There was a story. There's probably a legal issue buried in here that's not appropriate for public consumption. But there was a story in the paper about a cemetery in the Albany Times-Union about a cemetery in Clifton Park, a piece of which is owned by a city.
City of Cohoes.
The city of
Yes.
Cohoes. And apparently the piece that is not owned by the city is being maintained, and the piece that is being owned by the city is allegedly not being maintained. And Len, whose territory this is, advises that the city's having a meeting about it. It's currently scheduled for next week to try to figure out what to do to maintain their piece.
Good.
Not really within our jurisdiction as to their piece, but
Was the city aware that they had that piece?
I think so.
You know, they've been aware since the previous mayor, McDonald,
Okay.
was originally involved in it. And I'm just quoting from the article that I read.
Right.
And he denied that they had any responsibility apparently to maintain it. So I think the current mayor is meeting now with, I'm not sure who's going to be at the
Yeah.
meeting, but
That's for them. Let's not step on the city on that one, or it's not our jurisdiction, so for us to opine on it.
Again, this is just sort of stuff that's going on in our neck of the
Yeah,
woods. It's
yeah.
not really anything for us to take action on.
Okay. Very good. All done? Good enough? All right. Vandalism report. What's going on with vandals?
Any
Vandal-
Visigoths?
What's that?
Any Visigoths? Huns?
Vandalism fees collected this current fiscal year total $25,783. Applications granted during this fiscal year, $225,848, and applications pending are $395,746. Of those applications granted, 2 were for restoration, totaling $219,401, and 1 was for abandoned application, $6,447.
Okay. Very good, thank you. And we have no orders pending this week, so it's a nice break. So we'll move right on in. We have 2 tabled matters, only 1 live one, and that is Evergreen Cemetery.
I'm going to defer to Louis and or Mike this evening.
Wait, did somebody bring the package here?
I do, yeah.
So
Have we shared this with everyone?
present.
It is-
Evergreen?
Yeah.
It was in the package.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike, do you want to?
Well, it was presented at the last board meeting in from my recollection, the big piece that was missing was whether or not they posted the legal notice, which they
Yeah,
have.
I noticed that they have, right?
So they're constructing a community mausoleum on the grounds. They have other mausoleums that have been successful, and they want to continue going in that area.
And they're all but full, otherwise.
That's your
Yes.
legal notice with an apt description. It doesn't specifically list the, I think, the address. However, it is on site, and they have
Oh,
other
yeah.
contact information there.
I just had, maybe we went over this last time, I don't recall, so I'll ask it anyway. There's some rhetoric in the report about Evergreen is projecting $5 million to build the Mauso, but it's really 2.5. And we used our numbers, we used 2.5. I don't understand that. What's going on there? There was talk about,
No, the $5 million is actually estimated
Yeah, I think it's-
sales.
I think that's a
That-
typo.
Oh, I got it.
That's a typo.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no.
That's what I thought.
I think it was 5.5 estimated sales, right? Oh, or maybe 5,
The
whatever.
estimated sales of $5 million, the cost is estimated at $2.5 million.
Okay, so what was the information about the restrooms and land being pulled from the cost of the construction? I just didn't understand that part.
Well, I believe the cost of the land is if that land were to be used as grave sites.
It's not suitable for burial anyway, right? It's on a lake, and they're using piles to support the mauso, so.
It's not a hard cost because they're not buying the land to
Right.
do this. But the
But for-
cemetery, in estimating the cost of this project, threw in the cost of the
In
land
abundance
Probably
of
not
as
caution.
part of it.
That's a fair thing to do. But when we did it, we didn't figure in the cost of the land. We said 2.5 is less the cost of the land. Is that right? And what about the restrooms? I don't know what that's about.
If
Very
we need to, we
strange.
can call Vince.
Um,
He must have had a reason for having them break that out that way.
restrooms, why would they?
Actually, also the president of the cemetery is available for a conference call if we have any questions that for further assistance.
I think restrooms are not, the numbers still seem to add up.
But the numbers are going to be fine. You know, Evergreen's got a long history of doing this. No problem with the application. I just, maybe it's worth a call to Vince just to ask him what that is. If we can get him on the
People
phone.
sticking around very long.
Oh, so they're not going to include restrooms, maybe.
Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, unless it's a building code thing,
Yeah,
Do you know the answer?
I think I do. I think it's because the restrooms aren't just for this phase of the mausoleum.
That's what I was thinking.
right. There's a lot of mausoleums in this, where they're building these new ones.
Ah,
That's what I was thinking.
all right, so that they're
Thank
going
you.
to build restrooms here that will accommodate the entirety of
Visitors.
the Mauso complex, if you
Right,
will.
right.
And the restrooms probably cost a couple $100,000 or something. All right, I'm fine with it. Are you guys fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, okay. Thank you for that insight. That's good. All right, any further discussion?
We need a motion.
Yep.
Before
No, you
Or-
don't discuss.
before we ask for any further discussion, questions?
I have none.
Who said you
Okay.
could discuss?
Disgusted. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
The other two matters that were tabled are not ready for presentation yet.
Yeah, but Palisades is coming along. I'm interested
Well-
in that one.
Tony?
I've given them my changes to their certificate of incorporation. Once I get it, then I'll send it down to division. Hopefully it'll be,
They turn things around pretty quickly when it's just them.
Yeah, they'll turn that.
And
Yeah.
he has advised me that he should have no problem getting the thing from the town. He just.
he got it already.
Oh, he got it? He gave
Oh,
it to
that's
us?
great.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
wonderful.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't think that would be a big hurdle. Wonderful. Okay, well, believe it or not, we've come to the conclusion of our public agenda, but for folks to address us and say hello. So I will open up comments to the floor. Would anybody care to chat with us today?
Okay.
Save from FedEx on the first phase of the restoration of the greenhouse.
Oh.
I'm telling you
see
about
that.
for several.
Yeah.
That's for several meetings. There's still no design of the new structure, but that's actually contingent on the purchase of the Brooklyn Monument property, which I had hoped would be on the agenda today, but it isn't. So this, it probably falls under 20116. Some things do, some things don't. We're moving forward with this. We kind of need to. We just received word from the city council that we're getting another $1 million in grants. So we're up to $3.5 million, over $3.5 million in grants, and some of it is time sensitive. So this contract is now signed, and we're starting to gear up towards it. This is really just a demo and removal phase. The non-contributing and non-landmark structure to the left of the greenhouse is coming down. Landmarks has no problem with that. No one has. And they're going to start to dismantle the greenhouse for restoration.
All right.
But there's no full design yet on what the new structure is going to look like.
And that's coming, and that will come back to us?
That will come back, yeah.
On a
absolutely.
major renovation application?
I
just lose track of what, of
I don't want
what's
to do
before.
anything without you knowing about it.
That's great.
Actually, the only thing, I know we've seen this before, and I should know the answer to this, but this is, you guys own this and not the Friends of, and you guys are doing this work and not the Friends of?
Excellent question, actually. The Friends group didn't have the money to buy it, so the cemetery bought the greenhouse. To get the grant from the state and the city, they asked that exact question. So we have a 99-year lease between our Friends of and the cemetery.
So who's doing the work? Are you or the Friends doing the work?
Ultimately, the Friends, but the money it's Greenwood's money. Greenwood's going to have to advance the cash until we're reimbursed for most of it from the state and city.
Okay.
Mostly city, actually.
So is that even a 201? I mean, is that the cemetery's property?
That's why I was wondering.
To even need our consent, to even need our approval. But it's a major expenditure. Maybe you want to throw me into the loop on this, and just so we have the right application before us, and everything is.
I do have a phone message from your attorney.
That'll be another cemetery purchase. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, we present things at board meetings sometimes, and part of the presentation is 2 other cemetery presidents on the board with X's through them. And my point is always, I don't want to be the third one with an X through my picture. So that's why I'm here.
Well, thank you. Okay. No, I appreciate you keeping us up to date. I have to confess that I lose the thread in terms of what's been approved. I mean, I know, I remember the presentation. It's a great project. The greenhouse is amazing. It's going to be a wonderful asset to the cemetery when that's restored. But as far as what's been approved, what should be pending, and what's not, this is apparently a very extremely complicated deal, which is great. That's what it takes to get it done. But I think that would be good to keep, have your counsel keep Tony apprised, so we make sure the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. Okay. Very good. Anybody else? No? All right. So that's the end of the public comment period. We'll take a 5-minute.
You can't get out of here this early.
Absolutely.
I can't let you do that. I don't know what I'm not even going to ask you anything. I'm just going to describe something I've been brought into.
Yeah.
And I actually threw Lewis's name into the mix that they might want to call him. The New York Landmarks Conservancy asked me to get involved with Prospect Cemetery in Queens. Okay. Prospect Cemetery in Queens is one of these. It's got headstones going back to the early 1700s, but it was totally overgrown 5 years ago. You didn't know it was a cemetery.
Does the city own it?
Yes. and they won't lift a finger to cut the grass. Parks won't get involved. A group started, there's a chapel that was built on it, Chapel of the Three Sisters. They got all this money to fix it up, and they did, and it's really nice. They have jazz concerts there, and it's a fun little place. But the rest of the cemetery, they've gotten a lot of the wild growth out, is in shambles, knocked over headstones all over. So they brought me out just to pick my brain a little bit. And the first thing I saw was this beautiful garden that they built around the chapel. I said, this is really very nice. But when you look at this beautiful garden and you turn around and there's 20 knocked over headstones, that's not very nice. So what we're doing is we get a bunch of volunteers from France in every summer, part of a group called Preservation Volunteers of America. They're only there for a week or two, and then we have 2 interns from the Williamsburg High School of Architecture and Design. We're making that our project this year. We're going to go out there Tuesday and do a full day's work, and then we're going to set up a project for the following Tuesday for a press event, in a sense. And I mean, I don't know how you guys could help other than it's a city-owned cemetery that they won't lift a finger to care for. Even if they just sent a parks department per people there once a month to cut it. They say they don't have the staffing, and maybe that's true. I don't know, but there are people trying, and it's really a fun little place. It's hard to find. It's surrounded by York College. I mean, the first day I drove out there, I said, where is this place? I had to call them. They said, oh, look across the street. See the fence? See the gate? Drive in. Drove in, and there it was. York College is a city college. They have events in this chapel, and they're not really helping to maintain this place. It's a shame, and there's a bunch of places like this in Queens, but this is one that's made some progress on bringing it back. I mean, there's a lot of money. They have Mayor Jablonski Conservation in there now, restoring some of these beautiful colonial-era gravestones. It's a worthwhile project. I don't know. I haven't brushed up on my vandalism law in a long time. I don't know if they're eligible to apply. Yeah, I didn't think so.
No.
But maybe just throwing it out there for.
Yeah.
Do we have any idea whether there's any room left in it?
We think alike, Louis.
Yeah.
I asked that question.
In the city, that's a big deal,
Yeah,
as you know.
there isn't a lot, but I think there could be some if they cleared it out properly.
Because look at what Cypress Hills has done with Canarsie when it acquired it back from the city. I mean, of course, they had a lot of.
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah, well, the city is obviously consented.
Did you read the history of that?
The city.
Let's not talk about that. But yeah,
The city is consented to accepting help from these groups and from you, right? It's like Friends of. And that's probably the best path to pursue is to have Friends of approach the city and take a stronger hand, right? I mean, the city might welcome that.
Yeah.
The other person you might want to talk to, if you haven't already, is Richard Horahan, who's the borough historian for Queens.
He's involved in this.
Okay.
I haven't met him out there yet, but
There is a statute which provides for municipalities setting up volunteer organizations to help maintain the city, and it does explicitly state with the assistance of the division. So the division could have a role if that's the route they go.
If the assistance, so if the city and a Friends of group were trying to get together
Right.
and establish something formal, we would assist in that.
Right. We could provide some technical support.
Carrie would be
We'd be
delighted
we'd be
to
happy to
something
do
like
that.
this.
We'd be happy to do
Great.
that. Okay.
I think there's probably room for at least cremated bodies. Full graves, possibly some,
Right.
but they could definitely do something with cremation.
Somebody would have to pay for radar, though, to.
I think they've actually done that already. A lot of money went into this place already.
Yeah. Okay, well, we stand ready to assist if the folks that are involved would care for our assistance. Okay, so now, 5-minute break, And then motion to enter into executive session for investigative and litigative matters. Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 That's smooth.
Okay. Very good. Well, welcome back. There being no motions, resolutions, or any other matters to report in public from the executive session, I motion to exit executive session and to adjourn.
Second.
Yeah, first, second. Oh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Did you want to state, before you, I guess it's too late now, but did we want to state the date for the next
I
meeting?
can state it anyway,
Okay.
because we are still on the 2.
Oh, okay.
Third Thursday next month. What is that, the 20th?
August 21st.